Okay, now I'm getting ahead of myself so I can actually show you some techniques. What I'm going to use is the actual mesh itself as a way to kind of sculpt the mesh. And in here, I'm going to start using the standard brush for that. So the standard brush set out with a thing in here under stroke called lazy mouse with a subtract on it, and turn the subtract down a little bit. Okay, I'm going to have one more level of division. And what I'm going to do is make a nail bed in this area using this technique. So what I can do here is kind of right along these edge loops that are already in here. Just want a little bit more. When you're using the lazy mouse feature, you're going to find out one thing. It dulls down your strokes. So you're going to have to use more intensity. Okay, see how nice and fluent that is because I used the actual edge loops in the area to bend it out, and then I press down in there. So here's what I see most of the time that happens. Let's say that. I see that all the time. I see this all the time. When I go against the grain, it looks awful. But if I start using these edge loops, I get a nice fluent line that goes across there. Okay, now I can kind of start playing around again with the move tool, and with a bigger stroke, I can kind of mesh this out a little bit. Now, if I go down one level, you might find it's a lot easier. I can now see where that edge loop is and start messing around with the polys in that area like that. And when I go back up a level, you'll see that moved that whole nail bed and that nail right out. If I need to push back the mesh, here's an example of that. If I need to move it so the nail is in front of the mesh, you might find taking this and moving it back at a very low level and always move it around a little bit because it doesn't refresh right. Like you'll see the outline. Again, I'm only going to use this one finger, so I'm going to take this and I'm going to go into transform and set pivot on it and double click scale. This will make it so I'm moving around a little bit more fluently around the finger and I'm not chasing after it all the time. Okay, so let's go back up in res, and you can start seeing that I'm pulling that out. I'm just going to quickly play around with this. Go back to my standard brush. Run that crease down there. And my smooth brush is automatically set real low, so I can kind of go in here and straighten some of this out if I need to. Okay, fun stuff. And there we go. Starting to get that over the skin look that I need for that nail to occur. And of course, if you need to pile this up so it's over the nail. You can do that very quickly. And maybe smooth out this just a little bit. Okay. The standard brush also works the other way. If I want to add in here, certainly can, add a little bit on here. Just make sure that you correspond it to a little bit less pressure there. And you can start building up the sides of it to go over the top. Alright, so that is using the overall outlines to start adding detail on the areas. And that kind of, I can go in here and sculpt all the knuckles and stuff. It all works the same principle, really. I'm only using the standard brush with the lazy mouse most of the time, and I'm just going in here and kind of creasing it down, building it up. There is a small time that I've used the flatten tool a lot, especially when bone hits the outer skin. I can't stress how many times I've seen balloon animal creatures appear in the forum when the flatten brush is invaluable for getting that look where when the skin hits that bone, it lays on top of that bone just right, and you won't see that balloon animal look anymore if you start using the flatten brush. So for the exercise that I want you to kind of do is use a standard move and lazy mouse and go in here and do your best to kind of mimic a hand. You'll find that the tools that I've shown you are probably sufficient enough to actually pull out the whole mesh. Don't get into fancy alphas. Practice with these tools only, and you'll find that you're going to become a much stronger modeler for it. Okay, and here's an example. If I get too out of hand with maybe a knuckle on this. Okay. If I get too out of hand like that, make sure you just kind of use the flatten brush, flatten it out a little bit. What it'll do, it'll flatten based upon the contour of the first start. So if I'm starting here, it's going to flatten that area out, and I'll be able to get a nice transition between the two forms that way. Have that along with a very small change on the smooth, because the smooth is set to 5 right now, and you'll get all kinds of great transitions between the forms. And those are the form transitions that you must practice over and over again. And once you get those down, you can start getting into muscles and all that good stuff. But try doing a hand first. You'll be surprised. It really does teach you a lot about the form transitions and using the basic tools. And that concludes this kind of series until I figure out any more I want to add to it. And then we'll go on to a new series here.